wind outside the Darren estate had changed. It didn't whistle anymore. It hummed. Evelyn sat in the living room, the candlelight trembling in its glass. It had been 3 nights since she'd slept. Her eyes were red, her hands cold, her tea untouched. Somewhere beyond the walls, something was walking. It wasn't the creak of an old house settling. This was deliberate. Footsteps, slow, bare, wet. They moved through the walls like a pulse, from one end of the hall to the other, stopping whenever she held her breath to listen. Whisper. Evelyn. The first time she heard it, she thought it was the wind. The second time, it said her name with teeth, like someone chewing her memory. The house had been quiet for days since the storm. Now it was awake again. She stood, clutching the candle. The flame bent toward the hallway, as if pulled by a breath. The air was damp, cold. The wallpaper, once cream and floral, now hung in curling strips, revealing old plaster beneath, veined with cracks like veins under dead skin. Something behind the walls scraped metal against wood. Evelyn's whisper trembled. Hello, who's there? A pause. Then 3 slow knocks from inside the wall. Her breath caught in her throat. She backed away until her legs hit the old sofa, and the candle nearly slipped from her hand. The whisper came again, not from the wall now, but from the floor. Come down. The boards beneath her feet groaned, as if something were shifting underneath. She knelt, pressed her ear to the floor. The wood was cold and hollow. Then she heard it, a child's laugh. It echoed faintly, like it was trapped in the wood. Evelyn's shaking hand reached for the floorboard seam. The nails were rusted but loose. She fetched a screwdriver, pried the wood up, 1 nail at a time, each creak of the board louder than the last. Beneath the panel was a small dusty cavity filled with cobwebs, and in it sat a child's toy, a porcelain doll. 1 eye cracked, dress rotted to dust. Its porcelain hands clasped something small, a faded blue, ribbon tied around a lock of dark hair. Evelyn's stomach twisted. She whispered, "Who did this belong to?" The doll's mouth opened slightly. It shouldn't have moved, but it did. And the faintest sound came from it. Not mechanical, not from wind, but a voice. "Don't let him in." Evelyn stumbled back, knocking the candle over. The flame hissed out. Darkness swallowed the room. The only sound was breathing, not hers, behind the wall. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she turned on every light in the house and recorded the sounds on her phone, tapping, whispers, sometimes faint laughter. She labeled the recordings Wall 1, Wall 2, Floorboard Test. At dawn, she sat by the window. The town of Ashcroft looked the same, empty, colorless, half forgotten. A mist rolled through the main road, swallowing the old church spire. She picked up her phone. Her thumb hovered over a name she hadn't called in months. Daniel, her ex-fiancé, the one who begged her to sell this place. She hit call. "Evelyn, I need help." "What's wrong?" "The walls. They're moving." "Moving? Please just come." There was silence on the line. Then Daniel sighed. "I'll be there in the morning." That night, Evelyn couldn't bring herself to stay upstairs. She made a makeshift bed in the parlor. Every hour she heard the same footsteps again, now pacing. 3 rooms down, then closer, then gone. At 2:13 a.m., the grandfather clock in the hall began ticking backward. At 2:17, every picture frame on the wall turned upside down. At 2:19, the radio in the kitchen crackled to life. Static, then a child's voice, faint and monotone. "He's coming." Evelyn froze. "Who's coming?" she whispered. The static swelled into a harsh hiss, then silence. And from the staircase, she heard it again. Footsteps. Coming down this time, each creak was slow, heavy. She stared into the dark hallway, candle trembling in her hand. Then, from the shadows, something whispered, "Daniel!" Her blood ran cold. The morning came in grey and wrong. Even the light seemed unsure, like it had forgotten how to enter the house. Evelyn woke to the sound of a door slamming upstairs. Only every door in the house was open. Her breath fogged in front of her face. The air was colder than it should have been. She reached for her phone, the battery dead, though she'd left it charging all night. The clock on the wall flickered between 3:33 and 7:06, switching like it couldn't decide what time it was. Then came the sound, a whisper crawling through the pipes. "He's here." Her pulse spiked. She rushed to the window, heart thudding, and there, through the thinning morning fog, a car pulled into the driveway. Daniel. The relief that hit her was almost painful. She ran to the door, nearly tripping over the rug, and pulled it open just as he stepped out of the car, still in his work jacket, toolbox in hand, his expression wary. "Evelyn," he said softly, "you look awful." "I haven't slept." "I can tell." He glanced up at the house, frowning. "It feels colder here, like pressure." Evelyn swallowed hard. "I told you, the walls, they're alive." Daniel sighed, shouldered his bag, and stepped inside. The floorboards groaned under his boots. "Let's just start with whatever you found," he muttered. "Then maybe coffee." She led him to the parlor, to the open floorboard where the doll still sat, now covered with a thin film of dust, though she'd touched it only hours ago. Daniel crouched, picked it up, examined the cracked porcelain face. "This thing's ancient." It spoke. "You mean like a mechanism?" "No, Daniel. It said words, real words." He chuckled uneasily and set it down. "Evelyn, you need rest." But as he stood, his expression froze. Behind her, a whisper. "Daniel!" The same voice she'd heard last night. He turned sharply. "Who said that?" Silence, only the low groan of wood expanding in the cold. Then a thud from inside the wall, deep, hollow, like a fist. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He pressed his ear to the wall. "Something's moving in there." "I told you," Evelyn whispered. They walked behind it. He fetched a hammer from his bag and tapped along the plaster. Thump, thump, thump. Then, a dead spot. He marked it with his thumb. "There's a cavity here. Maybe an old flue or..." The wall knocked back. Daniel froze. Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth. He hit it again. The wall hit back harder. The sound rippled through the room like a heartbeat. Dust fell from the ceiling. "Jesus," Daniel muttered. "There's something alive in there." "It's not alive," Evelyn said quietly. "It's awake." Then, the wall breathed. The plaster flexed inward slightly, then exhaled, sending a gust of cold, rotten air across their faces. Daniel stumbled back, choking. "What the hell is that smell?" "It happens every night now." "Every? Evelyn, why didn't you call sooner?" "I thought I was losing my mind." They tore at the wallpaper until they found a seam of red bricks behind the plaster, a makeshift barrier, hastily mortared decades ago. Daniel's hands shook as he brushed the dust away. This was sealed intentionally. Someone didn't want it opened. Or someone wanted to keep something in. Evelyn shivered. The candle flame nearby flickered violently. "Daniel, listen." From beyond the bricks came faint humming, a lullaby, off-key, slow, like a child singing to sleep. Daniel stepped closer, straining to hear. The song stopped, then a whisper. "She's under the floor." He jumped back. "Evelyn, that was..." "A voice, I know." The house groaned, long and low, like a sigh of exhaustion or pleasure. They spent the afternoon pulling up more floorboards. Every plank revealed more dust, more hollow space, more fragments, bits of toys, a broken spoon, a single baby shoe. Then Daniel's crowbar hit something soft. He froze! That wasn't wood. He knelt, reached into the gap, and pulled up a handful of hair. Black, coarse, tangled. Evelyn gagged. "Daniel, stop." But he kept digging. Beneath the hair, wrapped in what looked like burlap, was a small bundle of bones. Not animal, small enough to be a child. Daniel stared, the color draining from his face. "Oh my God," Evelyn whispered. "I told you this house remembers." They buried the remains in the garden that evening, too shaken to call anyone. Daniel tried to rationalize, maybe old construction, maybe tragedy, but the look in Evelyn's eyes silenced him. That night, he slept on the couch. Evelyn stayed upstairs. At 2 a.m., she woke to a faint knocking, not from the walls this time. From beneath her bed, "Daniel?" she called softly. No answer. She leaned over the side. Nothing but darkness. Then, a hand shot out, pale, small, childlike, and grabbed her wrist. She screamed. The hand vanished. She tore back the covers. Nothing there but sheets and dust. Heart racing, she stumbled into the hallway and froze. The walls were pulsing. Slow, steady, like breathing. She screamed again. "Daniel!" He came running, shirt half buttoned, eyes wide. "What's wrong?" The hallway fell silent. The pulsing stopped. Then, from every wall at once, a whisper in dozens of voices. "He shouldn't be here." Daniel looked around, panicked. "What the hell was that?" "I told you, it doesn't want you." "What doesn't want me?" The light bulbs exploded. Darkness swallowed them both. The light went out as if the house had swallowed it. Not just darkness, absence. The kind of dark that eats sound, where even breathing feels wrong. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Daniel's voice trembled somewhere near the stairs. "Evelyn, say something." She didn't answer at first. Her eyes were wide, searching. Then, a dim orange glow flickering from the hallway. Her candle. She moved toward it carefully, her steps measured, her breath short. The candle sat upright on the floor. Though she'd dropped it earlier when the lights blew, wax ran down the sides like veins. "Daniel," she whispered. Something lit it. He joined her, glancing at the melted wax, at the flame that didn't flicker even when they moved. "There's no draft," he murmured. Then, somewhere beyond the walls, footsteps. They came fast this time, urgent, scraping, like something dragging itself through the hollow space inside the plaster. They stopped behind the wall near Daniel's shoulder. The next sound wasn't footsteps. It was breathing. Low, heavy, in and out. He could feel it, the plaster cool against his skin. Moving slightly with every exhale, he stepped back slowly. "This house isn't right," he said. "You think?" Evelyn's voice cracked. She gripped his arm. "Let's go tonight. And leave it like this?" He shook his head. Fear and stubbornness tangled together. "We need to know what's behind that wall. The knocks, the voice. Maybe there's a crawl space, maybe..." He trailed off. The candle's flame bent toward the blocked doorway they'd found earlier, as if drawn to something unseen. Evelyn's whisper barely carried. "It wants you down there." They set up work lights from Daniel's van. Bright white beams filled the hallway, harsh and sterile against the old wallpaper. Dust danced like ash in the air. Daniel began chipping away at the mortar between the bricks. Every hit of his chisel echoed through the house like a heartbeat. Chink, chink, chink. With each strike, Evelyn felt the temperature drop. Her breath fogged again, and the hum behind the walls grew louder. A low vibration like a growl under the floorboards. "Daniel, stop," she whispered. "It doesn't like it." "Evelyn, it's just an old wall. You're letting this place get to you." Chink, chink. Then, from inside the wall, something tapped back. Perfect rhythm, matching his hits exactly. Daniel froze mid-swing. "Did you hear that?" "It's mocking you," she said. He stared at the bricks, the dust in his hair, the way the mortar seemed to pulse slightly in the light. He should have stopped, but he didn't. He chipped another brick loose. When it fell, a burst of cold air rolled out, thick and metallic, the smell of rust and something sweet. "There's a cavity," he muttered. He reached in with his flashlight. At first, there was nothing. Then, the beam hit something wet, something that moved. Daniel jerked his hand back. His glove was smeared with a dark, viscous substance. "What the hell?" A whisper from inside the wall cut him off. "You shouldn't have touched me." Evelyn screamed. The work light flickered and burst. Glass rained across the floor. The hallway plunged into half-darkness. Daniel stumbled back, heart pounding, as something pressed from the other side of the bricks. A shape, pushing forward, the outline of a face stretching through plaster and brick dust. He dropped the chisel and ran. Evelyn caught his arm. "It's not done with you," she shouted. They locked themselves in the kitchen. The faint hum of the refrigerator was the only sound for several minutes. Daniel leaned against the counter, chest heaving. "We're calling the police," he said finally. "Or someone. I don't care if they laugh at us." Evelyn shook her head. "You don't get it. This isn't something they can fix. It's been in the walls since before I was born. Maybe before my parents moved in. Then how are we supposed to..." He stopped. The refrigerator hum had changed. It was slower, heavier, breathing. The light inside the fridge flickered. The door trembled slightly as though something was moving inside. Daniel stared at it. The handle shook once, twice. Then the door swung open. Inside, among the cold bottles and containers, lay a small toy car. Rusty, dented, with dried blood on its wheels. Evelyn whispered, "That's mine." "Yours?" "From when I was 5. How did it..." The toy car rolled out of the fridge on its own, wheels squealing across the tile. It stopped at Daniel's feet. Then it reversed, dragging backward into the dark of the hall. They didn't chase it. They couldn't. Every instinct screamed not to move. Then, from upstairs, came a crash, something heavy, furniture maybe, toppling over. Evelyn looked up. "It's in my room." Daniel grabbed a flashlight. "Stay here." "No." Just for a second. He climbed the stairs slowly, beam cutting through the shadows. Each step creaked like the house was groaning under his weight. The air grew colder, denser, thick with dust that smelled like rot. At the top, the door to Evelyn's room was ajar. He pushed it open with the flashlight trembling in his hand. The window curtains moved, though there was no wind. Her bed was overturned, drawers open, mirror cracked down the center. And on the floor, scratched into the wood with something sharp, was one word: "Stay." He turned to leave and froze. The reflection in the cracked mirror behind him didn't move with him. It was still, smiling. "Evelyn," he whispered, but she wasn't there. He took one step closer to the mirror. The reflection tilted its head. Then it moved toward him. The mirror surface rippled, as if made of water. Daniel stumbled back, and the glass shattered outward, slicing his arm. He shouted, pain blinding him. Downstairs, Evelyn screamed his name. He ran to the hallway, blood dripping from his sleeve, and froze. The walls were breathing again, slow, deep, rhythmic, and from somewhere below them came the faint sound of the toy car rolling. The toy car rolled again, a slow metallic clatter echoing from the basement door. Evelyn stood at the bottom of the staircase, her face pale, her hands trembling against the banister. She could hear Daniel breathing heavily somewhere above her, and the walls around her exhaled with him, like the house itself was sinking to his heartbeat. "Daniel," she called softly. "We need to leave now, please." No answer. The toy car hit the basement door with a soft thud. Then again, thud, thud. Each hit harder, faster, like something small and impatient was trying to draw her attention. The lock clicked. The basement door creaked open, revealing only blackness below. A faint smell of damp earth and rust drifted up. Evelyn's breath quickened. No, you can't want me down there." But the candle she'd left on the kitchen counter flickered. Once, twice, then blew out completely, leaving her in complete darkness except for the open door. From upstairs, Daniel's voice came, faint, strained. "Evelyn, help me!" She hesitated. Then, against every instinct, she stepped toward the basement. The wooden stairs groaned under her weight. Each step downward brought a deeper chill, a thicker silence. The air grew heavy, clinging to her skin like damp cloth. The basement smelled of rot and something older, like wet stone and iron. She reached the bottom and clicked on her phone's flashlight. The beam trembled over broken furniture, crates, and walls covered in moisture. She turned slowly and froze. There was a hole in the far wall, a fresh one. Bricks torn away, mortar scattered like bones. She knew immediately Daniel had opened it. The beam of light moved closer, reflecting off something slick. Her breath hitched. There, half inside the hole, lay Daniel's flashlight, still on, still shining. But Daniel wasn't there. "Daniel?" she whispered. The light flickered, then went out. From the hole came a faint sound, like something whispering. Not words, mimicry. Her voice. "Daniel? Daniel?" The whisper came back again and again, each repetition more distorted, like a broken record. "Daniel!" Evelyn stumbled backward, her phone trembling in her hand. Then, from within the hole, something moved. At first it looked like hands, but they were wrong. Too long, the fingers jointed like wire. They reached out, feeling along the edges of the torn brick. She turned to run, but something cold wrapped around her ankle. She screamed, kicking free, her phone dropping to the floor. The light spun wildly, catching flashes of movement. Pale shapes writhing in the dark. Hands pressing against the inner side of the wall as if dozens of people were inside it, trying to get out. Evelyn ran for the stairs, clawing her way up. The house groaned, the walls swelling like lungs taking in air. Halfway up, she heard Daniel again. "Evelyn, wait." She stopped. The voice was behind her, but it didn't sound right. Too calm, too smooth. She turned slowly. Daniel stood at the base of the stairs, his flashlight still in his hand. But his eyes reflected white, like a cat's in the dark. And his smile didn't reach his cheeks. "I saw what's in the walls," he said quietly. "They just want to be remembered." "Daniel?" He tilted his head. "You shouldn't have buried them." Her stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "The ones your parents sealed away." Tea house seemed to pulse at his words. The breathing behind the walls turned into a low moan, like 1,000 voices mourning together. Evelyn backed up a step. "Daniel, you're scaring me." He grinned wider, the skin at the corners of his mouth tearing slightly. "Then I'm doing it right." He lunged. Evelyn screamed and ran. The basement door slammed shut behind her with a violent bang. She threw her weight against it, sobbing, listening as something thudded against the other side. Once, twice, then stopped. Silence. She collapsed in the hallway, trembling. The candle reignited by itself on the counter, the flame standing perfectly still. The whisper came again. "You shouldn't have buried them." Her phone buzzed, an incoming text from Daniel. "I'm outside. Can you let me in?" Her blood ran cold. She turned slowly toward the front door. Through the glass, she could see a figure standing on the porch, Daniel's silhouette motionless. But his reflection in the hallway mirror was facing her, smiling. She backed away until she hit the staircase. The candle flame bent toward her again, flickering as if warning her. Then the walls began to move. Not subtly, they bulged. The wallpaper tore, the paint cracked, and from beneath, faint faces pressed outward. Eyes closed, mouths open, whispering. She fell to her knees, sobbing. "What do you want from me?" A voice, deep, layered, echoing from every wall at once, answered. "To be remembered." Then silence. The candle went out again. Morning. Evelyn woke on the floor, the house still, the walls normal again. Sunlight crept through the cracks in the curtains. She stumbled to the front door. It was wide open. Outside, Daniel's van sat empty, keys still in the ignition. But on the driver's seat was something new. A small brick wrapped in paper, written on it in Daniel's handwriting. "Don't open the walls again." She dropped it immediately. It cracked on the porch steps, and from inside fell something small and metallic. Her old toy car. Evelyn looks up and sees, just for a moment, Daniel standing in the upstairs window, expressionless. When she blinks, he's gone. Then the faint sound of breathing returns. Not behind the walls this time, but behind her. The sun barely rose over Ashcroft that morning. Its light felt thin, diluted, like it was afraid to touch the Darren estate. Evelyn hadn't slept. She sat on the staircase landing, staring at the open front door where Daniel's van had been only hours before. The cold had crept inside during the night and now lingered, an invisible weight that made every breath look like smoke. The walls had stopped breathing, but the silence was worse. Every creak of the floorboards sounded deliberate. Every shift of wind seemed to carry a whisper. She told herself it was exhaustion, but the house had learned her rhythms. It waited for the moments she tried hardest to ignore it. She rose, slow and shaky, and started walking through the hall. The wallpaper still bore faint bulges, where the faces had pressed through hours earlier, though now they looked more like water damage. She trailed her fingers along them, feeling only cool plaster beneath her touch. "You're not real," she murmured. From somewhere deeper in the house came the faint sound of a piano key being struck, once, clear and soft, then again and again. The parlor. Her parents' old grand piano had been silent for years, the keys swollen by moisture. She followed the sound, heart hammering, until she reached the doorway. The piano lid was open. A thin layer of dust floated in the sunlight like ash. No one was there, but on the music stand lay a sheet of paper, yellowed and curling. Not sheet music, blueprints of the house. Evelyn's breath caught. Scrawled across the plans in her father's handwriting were red circles marking certain rooms, the nursery, the basement, the west corridor, and lines that extended to unmarked spaces behind them, hidden rooms. Her father's notes were erratic, frantic. "Do not open. Pressure must remain sealed." Another scribble, half smudged by age. "Walls remember, walls warn." The piano struck a final note by itself, a low broken chord. Evelyn backed away and the floor groaned beneath her as if something moved underneath. Outside, the wind picked up. A loose shutter slammed against the window frame. Then a second sound, a rhythmic thumping from the attic above. Evelyn hesitated at the bottom of the attic ladder. Dust fell from the trapdoor with every impact, the rope swinging gently like a pendulum. She pulled it down. The ladder unfolded with a moan that echoed through the ceiling beams. Up there, darkness waited, thick and unmoving. She climbed slowly, one rung at a time, until her head rose above the opening. Her flashlight swept across stacks of old trunks and cobwebs. The smell of mothballs and cold wood hit her. Everything looked ordinary, until she noticed the far corner. Something was written on the boards. Dozens of names carved into the wood, overlapping, desperate. Her parents' names among them, and at the bottom, a newer carving, Evelyn Darren. She froze, breath fogging the beam of light. No, I didn't." From the opposite corner came a whisper. "You will." The flashlight flickered and went out. For a moment she could hear only her pulse, and then faintly, a lullaby, her mother's voice singing from the dark. Evelyn stumbled down the ladder, slamming the hatch shut. The lullaby stopped. Back in the hall, the air felt heavier, charged. She pressed her palms against the wall to steady herself and felt it beating, a slow, steady pulse, like a heart inside the plaster. Her parents had said the house was alive in stories meant to scare her as a child. She finally believed them. From outside, a knock echoed at the front door. 3 times, measured, patient. She turned. Through the glass, she could see no one, only fog thickening over the porch. A voice came through the door, soft and familiar. "Evelyn, it's Father Harlan. May I come in?" The town priest. She hadn't seen him since the funeral. Relief and fear collided in her chest. She unlatched the door. The priest looked older than she remembered. His eyes were sunken, his collar stained. He stepped inside slowly, gaze traveling up the grand staircase. "You shouldn't have stayed," he said. "This house remembers everything that's ever happened in it." "You mean ghosts?" "No, memory that thinks." He pulled a small silver cross from his coat and held it up. They built this estate over a pit. The Darrins didn't buy land, they buried it. Buried what? The town's history, the people who went missing when the mine collapsed. They built this house to keep the ground quiet. The priest's voice trembled. When the walls start to breathe, it means they're waking. Evelyn felt the air around them move. Faint, but unmistakable. A sigh that rippled through the drapes. The priest turned sharply toward the parlor. They're listening. The priest's hand trembled as he drew a small vial of holy water from his coat pocket. The glass clinked softly against his ring as he crossed himself. Evelyn watched, frozen, unsure whether to believe in his ritual or in the thing she had felt, pulsing behind the plaster. "You shouldn't stay after dusk," Father Harlan said quietly. "It listens best when the sun dies." Evelyn tried to speak, but the air thickened, muffling her voice. The piano in the next room gave a single low moan of a note all on its own. "That's it hearing us," the priest muttered. They waked to sound. He began sprinkling the holy water along the door frames, each droplet hissing as it hit the wood. A sour metallic scent filled the hall, like blood warming on iron. Evelyn's heart beat faster. "What are you doing?" "Marking the boundaries. If you hear whispering in the walls again, you must not answer. It bargains through memory." He turned to her, eyes dark. "Did you speak to it last night?" Evelyn hesitated. "I thought I heard Daniel eat." "It isn't Daniel." The words cut through the room like a blade. Before she could reply, the floor beneath them creaked. A deep, dragging groan that traveled under their feet from one end of the hallway to the other. The priest's vial shattered in his hand. From the staircase, dust drifted down like snow. A door upstairs slammed open. The priest raised the cross and stepped toward the staircase. "Stay here." "No." He climbed quickly, muttering prayers under his breath. Evelyn followed despite herself, drawn by something more powerful than fear. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched longer than before. Its wallpaper darker, the ceiling lower. Each step they took echoed as if in a tunnel. The door to the nursery stood wide open. Inside, the rocking horse she hadn't seen since childhood swayed gently on its own. The motion was slow, hypnotic, the wooden joints creaking like old bones. "Father!" He raised a hand. "Listen." From inside the walls came a rhythmic scratching, fast, deliberate. It was writing. The priest moved closer. He pressed his ear to the wall, eyes widening. "It's carving." Evelyn leaned closer. Faint letters were emerging through the wallpaper, pushing outward from the plaster. DONTBREATHE. Her lungs locked. The priest stepped back, his face ashen. "It knows we're here." The nursery door slammed shut. The rocking horse stopped. Then came a whisper, a child's voice, soft and clear. "Father, stay with us." The priest froze. Evelyn's flashlight flickered. From the corner, the toy chest rattled. Once, twice, then the lid burst open, and a black cloud of dust poured out, swirling like smoke. Within it, shapes flickered. Small hands, faces pressed together, mouths open in silent cries. The priest shouted a prayer, his voice trembling. The cloud surged forward, hitting him full force. He fell back against the wall, gasping, the cross burning bright in his hand. "Run!" he choked. Evelyn grabbed his arm, dragging him into the hallway. The black mist followed, filling the corridor with a sound like whispers underwater. The wallpaper bubbled as though boiling from within. They stumbled down the stairs. The air grew hotter, thicker. The priest reached the bottom, clutching his chest. It remembers the ones they sealed. They're part of the walls now. Evelyn looked around helplessly. "Then how do I stop it?" He stared at her. "You can't stop memory, child. You can only feed it, or starve it." The house groaned deeper this time, a sound like a breath drawn from the earth itself. "Get out," he whispered. "Now!" Evelyn ran toward the front door. The priest stumbled after her, his prayers turning to broken murmurs. She pulled at the latch. It wouldn't move. She threw her shoulder against the door. It didn't budge. Behind her, the priest screamed. She turned in time to see his body lift off the ground as if the air itself had hands. His cross fell, spinning, before bursting into flames mid-air. His voice was a ragged whisper. "It remembers." The sound cut off as the walls folded inward. When they straightened again, he was gone. Nothing but his collar remained, resting on the floorboards. Evelyn collapsed against the door, sobbing. The entire house was silent again. Her fingers brushed something wet on the wall beside her. She turned. Fresh writing had appeared in thick black streaks. "You brought him here." Her reflection in the glass of the front door didn't move when she did. It just smiled slowly. Then it whispered, "We remember you too." The night fell too quickly. By the time Evelyn dared to move again, The last light had already vanished behind the trees. The house sat in silence, thick, suffocating, patient. She had dragged Father Harlan's collar to the table, hands still shaking. It felt heavy, damp, as if it had absorbed the house's breath. She kept staring at it, waiting for proof that what she'd seen wasn't real. But reality didn't exist in Ashcroft anymore. Only the house, only memory. A faint hum rose from the walls, like 1,000 voices exhaling at once. "No more," she whispered. "I'm done listening." She grabbed her father's blueprints and the box of matches. Father Harlan had dropped. She didn't know what burning would accomplish, only that it felt like control. She struck a match. The flare lit her face, trembling, uncertain. The hum stopped. Then, from somewhere deep below, a whisper answered, calm, intimate, inches from her ear. "Burning us won't unmake you." She froze. The match burned down to her fingers. She dropped it, hissing in pain. The house laughed. It wasn't sound, it was movement, a vibration through the floorboards that rolled beneath, her feet like distant thunder. Evelyn ran for the staircase. Every light bulb in the hall exploded as she passed. Shards rained around her like fireflies. At the top of the stairs, the nursery door was open again. Inside, something glowed behind the wall, the faint pulsing red of heart light. She stepped inside. The walls breathed. The wallpaper peeled in slow strips, curling like skin. Beneath it, the plaster flexed, and she saw shapes pressed inside, hands, faces, ribs. The house's heartbeat shook the floor. In the center of the room lay the rocking horse, turned on its side. A seam ran along the wall behind it, narrow but visible. Evelyn reached out, fingers finding the edge. The plaster was soft, almost warm. She pushed, and it gave way like flesh. A hole opened. Cold air poured out, carrying the smell of earth and old blood. A small space stretched beyond the wall, a chamber bricked in half a century ago. Inside sat a single crib, rotting, draped in cobwebs. Evelyn's light swept over it. Something moved inside. She stepped closer, every breath shallow. The crib creaked, and then she saw it. Tiny bones wrapped in the remnants of a blanket, and beside them, a locket identical to the one her mother used to wear. Inside the locket, 2 miniature photographs. Her parents, smiling. Between them, a third face, a baby. Beneath the photo, written in her father's scrawl, Evelyn, twin. Her throat closed. She staggered back, shaking her head. No, I don't." The house whispered through every crack in the wall. She never left. From the crib, a second heartbeat began, fast, eager. The air turned icy. A small handprint appeared on the inside of the wall beside her, pressed from the other side. Then another. Then dozens. She stumbled into the hall as the nursery door slammed shut behind her. The heartbeat spread through the house now, beneath the floor, in the ceiling, in the rhythm of her own chest. "You were never alone," the voice said. "You were built from what we buried." Evelyn reached the front door and yanked it open. Fog surged in, thick and grey, swallowing the porch. Daniel stood at the bottom of the steps, or what looked like Daniel. His eyes black pits, skin pale as wax, smile stretched too wide. "You found her," he said. "Now she'll find you." Behind him, the ground cracked open. The roots of the trees twisted upward, black and glistening, forming shapes that looked almost human. Evelyn screamed and slammed the door. The house exhaled. The windows shattered outward, spraying glass into the fog. The lights died. In total darkness, Evelyn heard the walls whispering again. Only this time they weren't repeating, they were chanting. Her name, over and over, faster and faster, until it blended into a single endless hum. She covered her ears, fell to her knees. "Stop it, please." The floor beneath her opened with a cracking sound, wood splitting like ribs. A rush of cold air and dust engulfed her. For one impossible moment, she saw the truth beneath the Darren estate. Corridors of brick filled with shadowy figures, hundreds of them swaying gently, whispering through cracked mouths. At the center, a stone altar. On it, a woman who looked exactly like her, eyes open, smiling. The whisper became words. "We gave you breath. Now give it back." The floor collapsed. Evelyn fell into the dark, and the house inhaled. Everything went silent. Then, from somewhere above, a single voice whispered through the venting ducts, faint but clear enough to travel the entire town of Ashcroft. "She's awake." The next morning, the townsfolk hear low moans coming from the ground beneath the Darren estate. The police break down the front door and find the house completely empty, walls pristine, no sign of damage. Except for one thing carved into the nursery wall in fresh letters: "She's home." If you're still here, it means the house hasn't taken you yet, but it listens. It always listens. Before we uncover what waits in episode 3, The Unspoken Room, Tell me, what do you think really happened to Evelyn? Did she fall, or did the house finally let her in? Type it in the comments below. I want to know where you're watching from, and what you expect to happen next before we open the next door. Don't forget to like this video, and if you dare, subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because what's coming next will make echoes in the walls sound like a lullaby. This is just the beginning.